President Trump is ending the Secret Service detail for Kamala Harris. The former vice president and presidential candidate will lose her protection September 1st, Monday. A White House official telling NewsNation that Secret Service did a threat intelligence assessment and no red flags or credible threats were found. Former VPs generally get protection for 6 months after leaving office. That would have ended July 21st. However, Harris's team tells NewsNation that was extended a year by President Biden. We are still waiting to hear back from her team on what they plan now for protection moving forward. Joining us now, former Secret Service agent for President Bush Sr. and President Clinton, Donald Lane. Welcome to you. Nice to talk to you as always. Do you see any issue here with pausing or putting on hold or ending, I guess, the Secret Service detail, given that they say there's no threat?
It's good to see you, Marni. You know, I think as long as it's based off of a threat assessment, I think that's the most important thing. And if no major threats were discovered during that threat assessment, then I think, you know, you're safe to end it. Yes, the former President Biden did extend it by a year, but let's say he did that in sometime in early January, you'd still only be looking at from September 1st, October, November, December, and maybe a small part of January. So in the big scheme of things, all not, you know, not that much earlier than she would have lost that protection anyway. Of course, she would have lost it by statute, as you've already said, on July 21st.
What type of security do vice presidents generally set up after that term expires?
Generally, you know, they're going to, well, with Secret Service, they're going to have some agents at their home. You know, there'll be a command post there. They'll have close quarter protection, people following them around. And then they'll have protective intelligence, people looking at emails, people looking at social media. And so private contractors and private security personnel can provide something comparable to that. Of course, there's a great cost involved in that, depending on how far you go with it. But generally, you're looking at the same types of things. You know, close quarter protection, meaning folks following the person under protection around, and then an advanced team maybe to go out ahead to make sure that wherever they're going is safe. And then someone, you know, generally around the home of the individual in under protection.
Do you know much about her Secret Service detail and how it compares to other vice presidents, Donald?
It would be the same as any former vice president. As I said, you'd have a command post at her home with a contingency of agents there that are with her, the active shift, we call that, the working shift, the folks who are actually with her currently. Then you'd have a team perhaps ahead doing an advance on where she may be going next. And then, you know, the most important piece that a person loses when they lose Secret Service protection is the protective intelligence aspect, which is, you know, obviously very robust with the Secret Service, which I said takes a look at emails, social media, those types of threats. It's like a symposium, and that's usually hard to reproduce with private contractors.
Interesting. Before I let you go, 20 years today, marking Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans and that devastation. I know that's something very close to your heart personally and professionally. Your thoughts 2 decades later after this horrific storm?
You know, today I just stand in solidarity with, you know, my comrades that were there with me, providing the relief, rescue, and law enforcement effort after the storm. You know, I think what's most important is that we don't lose the lessons that we learned, you know, which is basically that communities can come together. While there was a ton of devastation and horrible things that came out of it, at the end, you know, it's about community. Looking at vulnerabilities and making sure that you have strength of human spirit in place so that you can overcome these things. Yeah. But thank you for mentioning it, and my prayers and thoughts go out to everyone who remains affected by the horrible events of that hurricane.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.